Hey guys, welcome back to another live stream. Let me flip my stuff over here and get all of the little credits rolling. Here we go. So we already got a couple people in. AP, good to see you, man. How's everything over there in Britain? Turner, thanks for showing up, buddy, especially here at the start. So tonight, instead of doing what I normally do where I have a little spiel and I talk and kind of BS, instead we're going to do something a little different. So for those of you who weren't here last week for the live stream, we got into a discussion about what I was drinking, and I normally have a little glass of scotch here to come down for the evening, kind of relax while we all chat. And so Nick Santa Maria, it's hard not to say that without throwing in some like pizzazz, like Santa Maria, Nick Santa Maria. He actually recommended that I go try, and I can't believe I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. Pink Whitney. Yes, that's right. Pink Whitney. There's Nick right there. So fair enough. So Nick is currently, by the way, happy birthday, Nick. Happy birthday to you. He is currently running a loader doing snow removal in somewhere in Ontario. And he is like actively in the loader right now, listening with his earbuds in. We were messaging back and forth right before I went live. So I really do appreciate you listening, even though you're stuck in a loader tonight. Dig Nation, that's awesome. Thanks for joining, man. I really appreciate the support. So anyway, going back to Nick, because it is his birthday, I did go out and I did purchase Pink Whitney. It is a pink lemonade vodka drink. It is probably the most feminine drink I've ever purchased, and we're just gonna gently slide this over in front of the camera here. Yes, here we go, here we go. That's right. That is the bottle of Pink Whitney right there. I don't know what else to say. I mean, like, that's something I would never pick up off of the shelf. Oh, I'm sorry. Montreal, Quebec is where he is plowing snow. This is not something I would ever have picked up off of the shelf, but he swears up and down it's amazing. Now, I will say, just, to give Nick a little shit here, they did give me this nice handbag with my purchase of Pink Whitney, and it's a lovely size. Like, the beauty of it is I can actually fit my Pink Whitney here in the front pocket. I still have plenty of room for like my lunch and my water jug. I might even be able to squeeze a grease gun in here too. So, and the beautiful thing is these are some pretty hefty straps. So like I could probably, clip on a carabiner there and we could hang that sucker in the cab, and I think she would hold for the most part. So yeah, that's awesome that they gave me this handbag with my purchase of Pink Whitney. Just kidding, it did not come with a handbag. That is actually one of my wife's purses. But nonetheless, this is the most feminine drink I've ever experienced in my life. So, and I did tell Nick earlier in the week, I have not popped the top on this. For you, buddy, I waited all week so I could give you some shit while I tried it here. But we are going to pour us a glass of Pink Whitney. And here's the thing, I don't even know how you're supposed to drink this. So I'm just having it straight up on the rocks with some ice here. Oh my gosh. That's like a vagina in a cup right there is what that is. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on the live stream, but I just did. So anyway, Nick, happy birthday, my brother. I hope you guys stay safe while you're out there plowing tonight. This one's for you, man. It's not bad. I will give it to you. It is not bad. It's super sweet. Yeah, it's not bad. That's actually one of those dangerous drinks that goes down a little too easy. I'd put that up there with like a hard apple cider, except I feel more manly drinking a hard apple cider than I do this, but it is, that's definitely good. So I had to give you some crap, Nick, but no, that's a pretty good drink. I will admit that is a good drink. That's good. But I don't feel like a man ordering Pink Whitney and then having them pull this off the shelf for me at the liquor store. Like, that was the other thing, is I had to check out with this. Like, I was like, oh yeah, my wife loves it. So that's how I was able to justify it and walk away with still having somewhat of a scrotum left over. So, so anyway. So William, Dig Nation, Lindsay. That's my cousin, guys. Lindsay, out there in Washington. You're in Washington or are you in Oregon? Remind me where you're at. I think you're back in Washington. Did you ever leave Washington, or was that Courtney? I don't remember. So anyway, thanks guys for showing up. I appreciate it. So anyway, getting back over to the topic of manly men things. I don't really have a topic for this evening. It was going to kind of be just anything goes again. Next week, that's right, you are in Washington. So she is 3 hours behind us right now. So you're like not even to dinner time. But yeah, thanks for showing up. I don't have a topic. We were going to kind of do the anything goes. My buddy Rick is going to be on. In fact, everyone, so that you know, for next week. My buddy Rick has agreed to be on the live stream next week. I'll have a second mic set up for him. We'll kind of zoom the camera back so you can see us both. And next week we are going to focus on questions about owning your own company, kind of what equipment you would want to purchase if you're going to own a company, and then forestry mulching stuff, because I've had some questions on that. So store that away in your memory banks for next week. So let's see here. Yeah, Alan with Construction Machinery Channel. That is the question. Is most likely, well, here's what's going to happen. I will probably most likely drink the rest of the bottle, but to save face on here, I'll tell you guys that it's still sitting on the shelf collecting dust. And if you call me on it, I'll have to go buy another one of these bottles, and then I'll have to pour half of it out or let my wife drink half of it before I actually show it on camera here. So, hey, Dig Nation out there in Oregon as well. So you're three hours behind as well. So, the problem with this is it's going to go down so smooth. Like with the scotch, you guys have seen me. I nurse it through the evening, and I do a good job of keeping my wits about me. This is going to go down smooth enough that by the end of this one, I might stumble off and leave the camera rolling because I forgot to turn it off. So we'll see what happens. So anyways, anybody have any questions? Anyone want to talk about anything specific? Because I literally, like, this was my whole warm-up round here, was getting into the, as my cousin called it, the pink panty dropper drink. And this is like I might have to confess that I wear panties after drinking this. Like, that's Nick. That's actually, maybe that could be our first topic of discussion. Does Nick wear panties? That is asking the real questions, the hard questions here, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah, AP, you are 5 hours ahead. It is, so 5 hours. Dang, you're almost 1 o'clock in the morning. Is that what, did I do my math right there? Oh, another just super quick awesomeness. We just passed 5,000 subscribers. And I'm specifically saying we, because you guys are pretty much the entire reason that that's happening. The fact that you guys are subscribed and you're watching the content is the reason that YouTube is recommending the content to other people. So, like, full on, we just passed 5,000 subscribers, and believe it or not, we're almost to 5,300. I think we passed 5,000 on Thursday, if I remember right. And we are almost a full 300 subscribers over that. So the channel is growing like crazy. It's really exciting. I can't tell you guys enough how thankful I am for all of the support you guys are throwing my way. It's been awesome. I just noticed Alan mentioned the Kentucky video. The Kentucky video was totally different for me. So I'm this weird in between where I like the construction, the dirt, the typical stuff that is in the construction industry, but I also love stuff like Peter McKinnon, Casey Neistat, what's the guy, Make Art Now? He's got a channel called Make Art Now, that are really like the film guys, and I really love their stuff. And so this was kind of an experiment to see if, like, I'm never going to compare myself to being on their level. They're on a whole other level, but to see if I could even do something along those lines. And it was kind of a challenge to myself, and then it was also a challenge to see if I could take a trip that was a total just loss and see if I could recover something. And I can't thank you guys enough for actually watching it and appreciating it. I was really afraid what was going to happen is I was going to pour all of this love, sweat, blood into this video, and 3 people were going to watch it, and everyone was going to say, when is the equipment going to be back? So I do really appreciate you guys watching that one and appreciating that. No joke, I've probably got between 12 and 16 hours of editing on that video. Between editing, picking music, I had to go and download all of those clips of the newsreels and cut them together. Like, it was a lot of work editing that video, and it was a blast. I loved doing it, but it was also one of those things that if it flopped, I was never going to do it again because it was a ton of work. So I really appreciate the support on that. So let's talk about, Dozer Dennis. Let's talk about heavy highway work. I'm all for it because I think we've girlied this one up enough for now. So who likes big dozers? I love big dozers. What is your favorite big dozer? I have not been able to run anything over a D7. Excuse me. By the way, from here for the next like 4 weeks, there's a good chance that I'm going to be hacking, coughing, snotting all over the place because we're finally at the time of year where the temperature starts ping-ponging up and down, and that makes my allergies go nuts. My 4-year-old son has already got it going on, and I am soon to follow. So fair warning, I'm going to hack into this microphone, and there's not a whole lot I can do about it. So anyway, I've only been able to run up to a D7. The D7 I ran, unfortunately, was the D7E, which if any of you are familiar with that model, it was kind of a pig. Like, it was heavy. I wasn't a fan of the way that it pushed. The balance was just, it seemed off. It didn't have for what it was and having those electric drive motors, it just did not have much oomph when it came to pushing. So that's all I've got. One of these days, I take that back. I'm getting ahead of myself. This stuff's working already. I have been in a D11 for about 3 minutes. When I first hired into the industry, I actually was like a giddy schoolgirl and actually asked my foreman if I could jump in the D11. And so he jumped in and took me for a ride like I was a child, which I didn't complain. I was delighted. But he did ride me around like a child for 5 minutes in the D11. But I have not gotten to operate one. I am dying to operate D9, D10, D11. I love to operate one of those machines. So I feel like we're starting to overcome the pink Whitney now. So we're getting some manly talk in here. So anyway, hey Dig Nation. So let's see if we can throw some support to Dig Nation and see if we can get some subscribers over there. If you guys don't mind throwing some support that way. Also, Construction Machinery channel, I've already mentioned Alan's channel. If you like just kind of raw video of construction equipment running, Alan's got some really good stuff doing a lot of commercial job sites around the Chicago area. So I would highly recommend you check out his channel. So, oh, Nick, I know. That's why I'm giving you the amount of crap I am, is because I know that you are stuck driving a loader and you're probably blushing a little bit while we talk about whether or not you wear panties. So I'm gonna keep it coming because I know you can't defend yourself. So it's all in love. It's all in love, brother. So Alan, to go back to your question, construction season, it's, I'm sure you're familiar with being there in Chicago. It's all dependent upon the weather. You can kind of safely say definitively the end of March. Like, it's not going to happen any sooner than that. Most likely it's going to be probably the second week of April is about the time we realistically fire up. We have, and I'm sure you have them in Chicago area as well, we have the frost laws that come on. And essentially what happens is when, in fact, they ought to come on here probably within the next week or two with the temperatures we're seeing. But essentially when it starts to consistently be above freezing, the frost starts working its way out of the ground, which makes the road base a lot softer than it normally is. And so the state comes in and reduces They reduce load restrictions down to like, I don't know, a sixth of what they normally are, maybe even lower than that. And so until the frost laws come off, you can't move equipment. So the strategy around here is most guys, and they've already started, they will start staging equipment now, even though they know they're not going to run for another probably 4 or 5 weeks. They will start staging equipment so that they can start running while the frost laws are on. So that's happening right now. I'm hoping within the next 4 or 5 weeks we can get out there and film, because between you and me, I am getting super light on content. You guys are going to notice we're going to do a little more compilation videos here over the next couple of weeks. I apologize ahead of time, but I'm short on material. So we will see what happens. Dig Nation, dude, dozers are one of the hardest machines in the industry to run. You wouldn't guess it, but they are. But they are also some of the most fun and the most rewarding, just because you can do so much damage in a dozer. It's awesome to start the day with a moonscape out in front of you and finish the day with just a perfect landscape with all of your drainage lines and everything nice and clean. Like it's really rewarding when you really learn to run the shit out of a dozer. So let's see here. Thoughts on graders? So Dozer Dennis, that's a great question. Graders are one of those things where, especially for new guys coming into the industry, I always push guys to go towards a grader because there are so few people in the industry that can still operate them. All of the old timers are retiring, or people are paying them a crap load of money to stay out of retirement. And so, so as a result, if you can run a grader, you can pretty much, at least in this neck of the woods, and I know where I was working down in Texas, you can pretty much write your own ticket on where you're going to work if you can run a grader well, and you can actually keep grade and do a lot of the fine tuning stuff. You know, it's one thing to be able to just grade a county road and keep it afloat, but if you can actually run the grader and really keep grade, you can just about write your own ticket. So I always push guys to learn the grader, because if you really want to future-proof yourself, the industry's hurting bad for grader operators. So, and it is interesting, where are you at, Dennis, that there's not a lot of opportunity for grader? Because I know around here there's a ton of opportunity. Texas, there was a ton of opportunity. I know out in the California area there's a ton of opportunity. I want to say, and these are just areas I'm familiar with. It's not like these are the only areas. I know over in the Pennsylvania area there's a ton of grader opportunity, so it's out there. I just don't know what part of the country you're in. AP, potential video idea, all the new guys. So I'm totally down with doing that. The reason I haven't, that's, by the way, great suggestion, a video on proper footwear and proper clothing. I've debated doing that just because I don't want to come off, and I think I've got enough content now and my audience knows me enough that it wouldn't come off this way. But in the beginning, I was a little hesitant to do one of those videos because I didn't want to come off as, hey, buy all this stuff through my affiliate link so I can make money. Obviously, I do want you to do that, but like, that's not the purpose of my videos, and I was afraid it would come off, if I did that right off the get-go, it was just going to be like, hey, this guy's just making content so that he can do a money grab. But no, in fact, I'm going to write that down, because that is a great video idea. Proper footwear. It's really distracting because right off of camera right over here, I have this pink Whitney drink that's just shaking back and forth in its beautiful pink bottle. And so the whole time I'm writing, I'm shaking the desk a little bit. It's flashing at me. Footwear and clothing. All right. Never run a dozer, backhoe. So E-Fix. I'm going to call you E-Fix until you correct me. See, when Frank shows up, if he shows up tonight, digging Oklahoma, he's going to be your guy to talk to on the backhoe. As many of you who have been following these live streams know, I despise backhoes just because I had a miserable season in one, and I don't ever want to get in a backhoe again. Don't get me wrong, they're good machines, they have their place. It's almost a joke at this point as to why I hate backhoes. Like, I don't hate them as much as I let on, but it's kind of just a running meme now that I hate backhoes. But dozers, they're fun machines, man. If you ever get some seat time in a dozer, take advantage of it. It's fun. Dig, you don't owe me anything. I'm out here just to help everybody. You don't owe me crap. So, oh, that's awesome, E-Fix. So you're out working too. That's great. That's awesome. Richie, are you in a skid steer currently? Like, are you on a skid steer right now? Like Nick and E-Fix are running machines right now? Or are you just saying in general you're a skid steer operator? I tell you what, there's guys out there that make skid steers sing. I'm not a huge fan of skid steers just because they're so stinking small. They're bouncy. They beat the crap out of you. But man, there are guys out there that can just make those machines sing, and especially on those smaller like finish crews. Like I'm not gonna lie, I'm flat out jealous of some of those operating abilities. Dig Nation, great question. I think frost code here is it has to be, I think it's 40, it's a full 48 inches. We get deep frost here in Michigan. I want to say my first year I was operating up here, we were at like 3 or 3.5 foot of frost. Like it was an exceptionally cold year. We spent a ton of time down in the like negative, and these are all Freedom units. I gotta make sure everyone's aware this is Murica and we use Freedom units. So, but we were consistently down in the negatives with our wind chills getting down to like -20, -25. And no joke, we had like about 3 foot of frost. So I'm pretty confident our frost code here in Michigan, all of our footers have to be at least 4 foot, water lines have to be at least 4 foot, sanitary, stuff like that. So, oh, let's see here. So Dennis, it really shocks me that you don't have a lot of grader work up in New York. I know that around here, we will dial the road in. So when we do a road job, we will dial it into within about a tenth, maybe a half tenth with our dozers with GPS. And then all of our finish work is done with a grader, especially on these long highway jobs. Ajax was the paving company that we always worked alongside. They're one of the biggest ones in Michigan. They actually required it in their contract that we finished with a laser grade system with the robot laser that moves itself and follows the grader around. And the reason is this was, as you guys have probably come to find out, I nerd out on some of the technical aspects of earth moving and construction. The reason they required the laser grade accuracy is because if you're using GPS, it's generally accurate to within about a half-ish tenth, which is really good. I mean, a half tenth, you're talking like that much of a degree of accuracy. Like, that's serious. But when you're the asphalt company that has to follow with asphalt this much of a difference across an 11-foot highway lane multiplied by 11 miles in length, like you're talking some serious tonnage of asphalt that you have to make up the difference if you're low. And so what they did is they required us to use lasers, because now you're within like, I don't even remember in all honesty, but it's like less than 1/8 of an inch accuracy when you use one of those laser systems. And so they required us contractually to finish with a grader with a laser system. So that they could get that degree of accuracy. So all of that to say, sorry, long-winded story, we had a grader on every single one of our road jobs, and it was always busy. It was always, when it wasn't doing the long main line finish work, we had them cleaning up in intersections and doing all of the tidy piece work, where that was really the only tool that was accurate enough to do it. So AP, I totally agree. When you got the wrong clothes, I tell you, nothing is worse than being out on a job where you were confident. Like the forecast was saying there wasn't going to be any rain. Like everyone knew there wasn't going to be any rain. There was not a single cloud in the sky. And you decided, stupidly, to leave your rain gear in the car on a job that you couldn't access your car. In my situation, we were at the airport, and because of all of the 9/11 stuff, you couldn't just go out to your car. You had to get in a van, you had to go through a security checkpoint, and then you could get out to the parking lot, and then you had to come back through the security checkpoint, then you had to get carted back out to your machine. So the whole process, you were gone from your machine for like a half hour just to go to your car. So you couldn't go to your car. And so stupidly, I decided to leave my rain gear one day. And that was the one day that we had a freak pop-up thunderstorm, and I spent the rest of the day soaked to the bone. And of course, you know what kind of chafing goes on with jeans that are soaked while you're riding around in a seat just rubbing the snot out of it. Didn't ever forget my rain gear after that. Learned a very valuable lesson, and I walked bow-legged for about 3 days because of the horrendous chafing. So I 100% agree. Doom, I'm totally with you. That's one of the reasons I dog on backhoes so much, especially the wobble sticks. I call them the wobble sticks. You can call them twin sticks. You can call them, I can't remember what the other terminology for it, but yeah, the long wobble sticks in the middle, freaking hate those controls. They're just super, to me, they're super inaccurate. It's really hard to do tidy work with them. It's better with pilot controls. I will say I like the pilot controls, didn't mind it as much. But still, at the end of the day, your freaking backhoe arm is exactly where you need to look. And so it doesn't matter if you're swinging this way or this way, like that backhoe arm is always in the middle of your vision. And it's a difficult machine to maneuver around, and it's a pain in the ass if you have to move it forward 20 feet, because then you got to lift the outriggers up because that's too far to just kind of nudge yourself along. I mean, it's just all the way around. I'm not a fan of backhoes. Which is why Diggin' OK and I have this little running beef going, because he loves his backhoe, and I always tell him I can outdig him in a mini excavator. So one of these days, mark my words, he is one of the top guys I want to go see. We are going to have a dig off. I'm going to go down there. I'm going to rent a mini excavator. I'm going to put it side by side with his backhoe, and we are going to do a dig off just for the sake of finally putting this thing to bed. And then I'm going to shake his hand afterwards. And if I win, I'll try not to rub it in his face too hard. I hope you see this, Frank. Yeah, those are really good machines. I'm really big fan of them. Yeah, the 305s, those are also really good machines. The 308s, my only issue with those, and they may have fixed it on the next gen models or the newer generations, because it's been probably 6 years since I ran one consistently, but the 308s had some pretty horrendous emissions issues with the DPF system, and that was my only complaint. I love the way they dig. They had a lot of power, but it would go into limp mode like once an hour, and it was to the point where the cat dealership had to keep coming out and resetting the machine. There was nothing we could do with our software on site, so that was my only beef with that model. Hey, eFix! So did you hear that, Nick? If you're still tuned in, eFix is running a Case 521. Yeah, a Case, because it's the best loader on the market, Nick. Jeez. Good God, Parker, 14 feet of frost. That's where anything above 3 foot, or deeper, I should say, than 3 foot. And I'm calling it a day. Like, you're just gonna pound the snot out of yourself trying to get through that frost. Were you guys using hammers to get through that? Or were you just pounding the shit out of the machine trying to stab through it? That's ridiculous. 14 feet of frost. Good Lord. So Dennis, that's kind of interesting. You guys are only, for the most part, doing mill and fills out there. That I would think after so many years, like in Michigan, you guys would just do a full replace, which I think we were, I don't know, like 15 or 20 year rotation ish. I mean, there's nothing consistent when it comes to the government, but I want to say most of the jobs we were doing were about 20-ish years old, and it was, they had already done the mill and fill a couple times, and it was time for a full replace. So that surprises me. Yeah, Chris, I'm from Austin, Texas. Like, my hometown is Austin, Texas. That's what I was like, what is frost? So I come up here and they start talking about frost lines. It's got to be below the frost line. And I'm like, and I moved up here in like September. I'm like, what is frost? Like, I don't really understand. Like, frost is what you see on the top of the grass on a cold morning, right? Little did I know that frost ends up being freaking concrete that is 3 foot deep in the ground, and the only way through it is to just sit there and pound the snot out of your machine and out of yourself until you finally break a chunk free that you can get down to the soft dirt, and then you have to tweak the snot out of your bucket, working it out in chunks and pieces because your employer is too cheap to go out and buy a frost ripper. Not naming any names, but there's so many people, especially in this area, that are just, they don't understand the value of a frost ripper. That's a whole other video that I want to do at some point in time, just how valuable, which, by the way, if you don't follow Dirt Boss over there in New York just put out a video, it's been like 2 or 3 weeks ago, where he shows side by side digging with a bucket through frost versus a frost ripper. If that doesn't convince you to go spend the $1,200 to $1,500 on a frost ripper, I don't know what will. I mean, it is amazing how much more efficient you can dig through frost with one of those. But yeah, all of that to say, I hear you with the what's frost. Yeah, Parker, exactly. Yeah, it's like freaking concrete. Is there a way to learn? So Glock fan, yes, by watching my channel, my friend. So if you dig way back in the archives, I have some basement digging videos. I'm hoping that sometime this year an opportunity will present itself that I can redo some of those and actually go into detail the whole process where, I mean, it's setting the grade off of the print, transferring that grade into the hole or onto your grade rod using the hub, down to how to actually dig the basement. I'm wanting to redo that because I can do a much better job now. But there is some videos far back in my archives. And then I know Let's Dig 18 has done a basement video or two. And then Dirt Perfect has also done a basement video. So yes, absolutely, you can, like everything else, you can learn how to do it via YouTube without having to set foot on another company's properties. So Andrew, what's going on, man? Hey, I love that demo video. That was an awesome video. I love the drone work, the music selection. Your editing is taking a step up. I'm really enjoying the newest content, man. AP, 100%. No one is happy when they're, especially when you're cold and wet and you still have like another 7 hours to work or 6 hours to work on your day. Like you're going to be an asshole for the rest of your day. And really no one should hold that against you because everyone would feel the same way. So dig, the 416 cats, like I will agree, they are pretty good. They're beasts. Like I could lift the front of that machine off of the ground with the back arm. Sorry, had to make sure that. Oh, I'm talking at such a fast pace that my watch thinks I'm working out. Like it just beeped at me and told me I started a workout. So, all right, I'm down with that. Anyway, where were we? The 416. Like it did have a lot of power. But at the end of the day, you're still digging in a backhoe. Like your visibility is terrible. If you have to scoot anywhere, now you got to flip around and lift the bucket up and reposition yourself. The reason I hate backhoes so much is because I had to road one for pretty much the entire season on an 11-mile long job. And it just beat the snot out of you because you're just doing this the whole time down the road. And especially if you're a little overweight, which I was, you get them man boobies. Bounce, like, and it really makes you self-conscious. Like it's not good for your self-esteem. So my backhoe hurt me a little bit and it cut deep. So I'm not a fan of backhoes. So ZXX CNN mom, yes. I have no idea what that means, but yes. See, Dennis, backhoes. So when I was coming up, like when I was growing up as a kid, I was always mystified by the magical backhoe because it was the like do everything machine. It was so awesome. And then I became an operator and I really ran other machines and then ran also backhoes. And I realized like my phrase for the backhoe is the jack of all trades, master of none. It really is the backhoe summed up. Like, yes, it loads material. Does it do it well? No. But it loads material. It can also dig material. Does it do it well? No, but it does it. And to have that in one machine that you can drive to a job site, as Frank said last time he was in here, like that's a great benefit, especially if you're trying to keep your overall costs down. But if you put a little skid steer and a halfway decent sized mini excavator on the same job site, I guarantee you, in the right conditions, it will dig circles around that backhoe. And that's where I come from in my, disdain for backhoes. So yeah, Andrew, going back to your comment, I bet that was a blast. Like I've always wanted to, there's been such a strong desire in my heart to just take an excavator and smash into the side of a house. Like that would just be an absolute blast to cave a house in. Obviously one that's unoccupied and gonna be demoed anyway, but that would be a blast. CNN right here, buddy. Believe it or not, I know that is pink, and yeah, there it is. That's pink, I know, and the most girly looking thing you've ever seen, but that actually has alcohol in it. It is pure vagina juice and alcohol, my brother. and it goes down so smooth. Ooh. Let's see here. Yeah, e-fix, I would think that's about the only way you're gonna get through that stuff. Like, so where I'm from in Texas, we have limestone everywhere. You literally, and I'm not even joking, literally you will have an inch of topsoil and then you hit pure limestone. And so every freaking crew out there in Texas has an old, worn out, beat up hoe that's got a hammer on it, and that's just to make the hole. Or you've got a machine that's got those special rock buckets, which are awesome. They're freaking wicked looking buckets. If you've never seen one before, let's flip over to the browser here and let me see if I can find one for you. In fact, I'll flip to where you guys can see my web browser. Excavator. I can't spell rock bucket. Yeah, so one of these guys. Something like this. Come on, pull up here for me. Sorry, this is my slower computer that I run this stuff on. So it's like this guy here, except instead of having 3 teeth, they've got like 5 of them. And they're all, let me see if I can find a better one. They're all, yeah, here you go. This is what they use in Texas. Like, this is just one of those freaking wicked, like, you can see the teeth on this guy. And look at the size of this steel. Like, that's how much force they're exerting ripping that rock open. So this is what they would use in Texas if you were doing trench work and you didn't have a rock saw that you were cutting through it. So all that to say, like, I don't see how you couldn't use something like that in 14 foot of frost. Like, that's just ridiculous. So, Dignation, absolutely. Dirt Boss is a savage. He's out there. Dude, watching him run that backhoe up and down that slippery hill, I would have been puckered all day long doing what he was doing, especially on that one video where he was kind of sliding off to the side while he was trying to get back up the hill. He's a beast, man. Yeah, so I have to be honest, going off of Alan's comment of the tour, like that old refrigerator that you guys crushed, that one hurt my heart a little bit just because I saw the potential of potentially grabbing that thing and like gutting it, cleaning it out really well, and then having it like to store it. This is where I go a nerd route, all separate of the rest of the industry. Like, I'd use it to put shelves in it and store all my camera gear in or something. Like, that would be an amazing piece. And then you guys just totally obliterated it. And I was like, no, that would have been so awesome. But yes, that also looked like a giant hoarder house. So I'm not sure what that was all about. So James, what's happening, brother? So James Gibson Landscape Construction, if you guys don't follow him, he does a ton of snow pushing videos because he is also in Canada, and that's all you can do right now in Canada. So you might go follow him. But yeah, good to have you here, James. Thanks for dropping in. Okay, so good point, Alan. I should fill everyone in. So what happened was the whole drinking situation and why I have this glittery pink feminine drink in front of me. I normally have scotch when I do these live streams. And last week, Nick Santamaria from Canada said that I needed to go try this drink called Pink Whitney. And when he said Pink Whitney, I already had to like start giving him crap for how feminine it was. I did promise him though I would go out and purchase Pink Whitney and try it. And so that is exactly what I did. I went out and purchased this, what shouldn't be considered an adult beverage, but I did. I purchased this adult beverage. And so tonight, in the honor of Nick, who it is his birthday today, I am sitting here at my desk drinking Pink Whitney, pink lemonade vodka. And to be fair, and to be honest and truthful, it is good. But I will probably never purchase this again for myself. Now, I did just come up with an idea that I should purchase some for my brother-in-law because he is absolutely one that would get highly offended and irritated that I did that. So that's kind of an idea. Let's see here. Oh, you're up in BC. Dang, what are you doing all the way up in BC, man? Hey, Phil, my Australian fan, mate. It feels really cheesy for me to say mate because I am the whitest, most American. I can't pull off the Australian accent. So, Phil, good to have you, man. Good to see you. Thanks for coming by. Appreciate that. And yeah, just I'm sure you caught the tail end of that, but that's what I'm doing tonight. I am drinking this stuff. I am drinking pink vodka. That is what our evening has come down to. EFIX, yeah, so what we primarily used our backhoes for, and that was the season that I developed my hatred for them, is we used them for doing erosion control on our big jobs because you could, I mean, the honest truth is it's really hard to beat how quick and maneuverable the backhoe is on big job sites. And so anytime we had erosion control dams or any of that stuff that would blow out, like that was I had a crew, I think it was me and 2 or 3 laborers. And that's what we would do is drive up and down that job site and drive off into the ditches and use the backhoe to repair all of the erosion control stuff. The problem with that is you're always on these goofy slopes on a rubber tire machine and it doesn't get the best traction and you're shoving yourself out with the arm. And I had a wobble stick machine, which I've already expressed my hatred for that. And then you're roading it, you know, at top speed, 5-6 miles at a time, and it's beating the crap out of you. Just like all the way around, it was not a good time. Hey Dan, good to see you, man. Yes, I'm 100% feeling better, believe it or not. I was so the day that I recorded that laying in bed, that was not a staged shot. That was literally me laying there sick as a dog, and I was just thinking in my mind, like, I have to salvage this trip somehow. Like, I have to make some sort of a video. And so I had an idea of what I could do with the footage I had already taken and everything. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to power through before. And I did. I powered through. I made that one clip. And then I immediately turned the camera off and slept for like 2.5 hours. And woke up, puked my guts out, and then went back to bed and slept the entire night. My fever broke in the night, and literally by the next morning, like, my stomach was still a little off like it is when you're really sick like that, but I was able to eat. I didn't have a fever. Like, it was literally a 12-ish to 24-ish hour bug. I was totally fine the next day, which also happened to be the day that we drove home. So I do appreciate the sentiment. But yeah, it was just kind of salt in the wound. And by the way, further salt in the wound that I didn't even touch on in that video, we drive all the way to Kentucky. I hadn't had a really good snow up here in Michigan, like one that was really worth me going out and filming in the middle of the night. We hadn't had a good snow here until we went to Kentucky, where everything was shut down because it was 3 inches of snow, which again isn't enough to really do a lot of filming. It's like, that's not an impressive snow for anyone that lives in the north. But while I was in Kentucky, here at home, we finally got one of the perfect, like, it was, I want to say they got 10 or 12 inches in one night. So they had this beautiful, huge snowstorm move through, and I wasn't even here to film it. Instead, I was laid up in bed in Kentucky, not getting any footage. So I was like, like, every aspect of that trip just compounded. So it was, I mean, it's all good. It's one of those things where there will be other opportunities. In fact, tonight even, I got a comment from a guy that goes, oh, I wish I would have subscribed sooner. I'm in Louisville. We never shut down. We were going full bore doing land clearing the whole time. And it's like, no. So there will be other opportunities. It was an experience. So James, I'm doing really good. We talked about it earlier. I just passed, as you're aware, because you sent me a congratulations, but we just passed 5,000 subscribers on Thursday. We're already almost up. In fact, we might be at, let me check real quick. I think we might be at 5,300 subscribers already. So, I mean, the channel is growing like crazy. We're at 5,281. So we are 19 subscribers away from passing 5,300. So, dude, I'm doing awesome. I'm very excited. Bryan, how's it going? Thanks for coming out, man. Appreciate that. So, oh yeah, James, 100%. This is worse than Coors Light. I will say that. Like, it's good to sip on for a short amount of time, but to have this be my drink of the evening, I think I would full on have diabetes about halfway through the night. So I will 100% agree with you. Oh, Andrew, I didn't realize you went to Banff. I want to go to Banff so bad. Afix, yes, I have run wheeled excavators. They're really surprisingly handy and versatile as long as you are on a nice road surface. The second you start getting off of the road surfaces and into some softer soils, I'm not a fan, just because you're running. So when you're on road surfaces, once you get comfortable in the machine, you actually stop dropping the stabilizers unless you absolutely need to have a firm base. But we would run those suckers all the way up and down the road doing all of our restoration work, and 90 to 95% of the time we weren't even lowering our outriggers. You were just running on the rubber tires. So it does take getting used to. You have to, obviously, being on those rubber tires, you got to get nice fluid motions so that you're not rocking all over the place. But they are super, super versatile machines. They're really handy to have if you have a really good operator and they know the capabilities of the machine. I will say definitively, and I think I have a picture on Instagram of me doing it. I was sent down to one end of one of our jobs to load sand with a wheeled excavator because it was the only machine available, and that was brutal. The outrigger pads obviously are small enough that they're sinking in. Like every 3 or 4 buckets that I threw into the truck, I was having to reset my outriggers and kind of prop myself back up. And then you were literally sunk when it came to moving around in the sand to chase your pile. Like you couldn't move, so I was having to drag myself around with the bucket. So they have their limitations, but if you're using them on a nice road surface, they are really deadly machines. They're really nice to have. So yeah, thanks, James. I really appreciate that. That was a fun one to edit. It was a really big challenge to myself, and it was a challenge to kind of pull the footage out and make something of it, just because I didn't get anything worthwhile on the trip. So it was good. Thanks, Phil. That's high praise. I appreciate that. So, by the way, let me know whether it's here in the comments of the video. Like, that was a legitimate question. If you guys did like that, that's obviously not going to become the norm of the channel that I put out those. Like, that was a lot of work. But at the same time, I already have, I think, 2 or 3 trips planned for this coming year. I think I'm going to go back out to Minneapolis with Carson Shifsky and his brother. I'm going down to Ohio to visit Fetchco Excavating. And there was a third one, and I can't remember it offhand. But all that to say, if you guys enjoyed that, I will try to document the actual trip itself and kind of give you some more behind the scenes if you guys are interested in that and you like that video style. I'll 100% do those, and just it'll kind of be once every couple of months or so that I throw out one of those little kind of mini docus. So let me know. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate that. Appreciate the congratulations for sure. Yeah, Dennis, I'm telling you, in the right circumstances, wheeled excavators are deadly. You can zip those things down the job site. They're not as fast as a backhoe, but they can haul. You'd be shocked at how quick one of those wheeled excavators can boogie down the job. And especially when you're putting out fires, you can do some real damage with that. See, Efix, I would actually prefer the wheeled excavator over the backhoe, because the backhoe, like, you have to deal with pulling up outriggers and putting outriggers down to actually use the machine. Once you get used to the wheeled excavator, if you're in the right conditions, you don't even have to put down the outriggers. And as long as you're slow and smooth with your operations in the machine, you don't rock that bad. So it's actually a pretty tolerable machine to run. Versus a backhoe, it's just a pain in the ass and it's gonna suck anyway. So yeah, and James, that's a good point too. If you're close enough, you can drive them. They're not, like I said, they're not as fast as a backhoe, so you're not gonna run them down the side of a pretty busy road like you could a backhoe. But at the same time, if you're close, you can absolutely run them down the road. So Miller, I am going to be in Medina. Yes, Medina. That's where fetch goes out of, I believe. Yeah, AP, you guys run a ton of wheeled excavators over there, which makes sense because you can get that narrow profile on those suckers and you can get them all over the place. And yeah, you guys, and you put the craziest attachments on your stuff. It's amazing the things that you will like. You'll pull out a freaking wheeled excavator and then it will unfold like a transformer and it can do forestry work, but then it can flip its bucket around and it can do like fine grade work in a ditch. Like, it's amazing the attachments you guys have on your machines out there in Europe. Unreal. Oh, and then you flip the bucket another way and it's got a toothpick that you can get down there and pick out teeth, you know, whatever's stuck in your teeth from your lunch. It's unreal the attachments you've got in Europe. I wish we were more creative over here in the US, but unfortunately we are very stuck in our ways and we like our buckets with teeth. Like, it's amazing if you're on a crew that actually has a ditching bucket or a finish grade bucket. Like, no, we like our teeth. Don't mess with our teeth. So how many of us do we have in here? Let's take a look at that. Whoop. Oh, we got 15. That ain't too bad. We do seem a little light tonight compared to what it was last week. I am curious if, like, there's not a Super Bowl going on like there was a couple weeks ago. Anybody else have any input? Because I don't have anything to talk about. I'm starting to feel this vodka a little bit because it's deceiving. And so I really am becoming very lax in what I talk about. So I should probably slow it down. But that's the problem with these girly drinks. They go down so freaking smooth. Next thing you know, you've turned around and you drank half the bottle. And then you've got to spend half the evening peeing every 5 minutes because you drank so much and you didn't realize you drank so much. That's my problem with these sugary drinks. Like, Scotch gives you firm feedback on how much you've drunk. Or drank. So, like, you can take a little, like, too big of a swig of Scotch and it'll punch you in the back of your throat and it'll be like, hey, calm down there, buddy. But this pink lemonade, you can drink half the glass and it's like, no, keep going. Yeah, so yeah, that's the other thing you guys do is you use a lot more GPS on your hose than we do here in the US. It's slowly getting here, but nobody uses GPS on a hoe. Outside of maybe some pipeline work, it's really rare to see GPS on a hoe, which I go get with the times. Like, you can be so much more efficient, so much more accurate. You also, the biggest thing the majority of the industry doesn't realize about GPS, they're starting to catch on, but they still don't fully grasp it, is we can all agree that overall the workforce is becoming more and more unskilled because of the fact that we don't have that generational thing. We talked about it a lot last week on here, that you don't have as much of the generational aspect of becoming an operator. And so as a result, you have a lot of guys that are really green. They don't have a whole lot of experience. You can take a C-level operator, throw GPS on the machine, and turn them into an A-level finish grade operator. Are they going to be as fast as an A-class operator? No. But you can get the same finish out of them. They may take twice as long, but you still get the same result when it comes to the finish grading. It's the same with throwing it on an excavator, and this is where the industry still hasn't even begun to catch on here in the US. Like, you can take a C-level excavator operator when it comes to doing steep slope work or ditches, and you can turn them into an A-class operator. Yeah, it's going to take longer, but at least you're getting the A-class results out of them. So, for whatever reason, it's slow to catch on. But I have not ever watched Duck Girl, and from the name, it scares me a little bit to look that one up. But I will look her channel up. Duck Girl. We will make note and look her up. Rototilt on the excavator. So I have not run a full rototilt. I have run the tilt bucket, and I will say, in the right situation, I love it. When it comes to doing finish work and having a ditching bucket on the end of that thing, it is a deadly combination. You almost don't even need to bring in another machine, assuming you've got an accurate enough operator. I was doing parking lot approaches on one of our road jobs. I think it was a little Cat 308 that had a tilt bucket on it with a ditching bucket. And my job was to go through with a laborer and grade all of the approaches coming into parking lots. We didn't have to have a machine come in and follow me. Like, my laborer would spend 5 minutes raking behind me, if that. He would kind of work alongside me. And with that tilt bucket, we were able to knock it all out, and we were pretty dang efficient at it. So in those situations, I 100% love the tilt buckets. That being said, and I talked about this a little bit on the last live stream, the problem I have with tilt buckets is, because of that, especially with the rototilts, you have this mechanism that moves the bucket further away from the stick. And anytime you increase the radius from your hinge pin on the bucket to the farthest end where your teeth end on the bucket, anytime you make that distance further, you dramatically decrease your breakout force. So for doing finish work and softer soil digging, it's great. Love it. Anytime you're in a situation where you've got some harder material, I'm not the biggest fan, just because you do lose so much breakout force. It becomes a fight to get the power back and re-angle and position the machine to where you can kind of get some of that force back. So all that being said, have I ever been to Boston? I have not, Dan. And if that's a formal invitation, when I finally get some money in the bank that I can afford to travel, I will 100% come out and work with you guys if you are willing to have a guy with a video camera running around your job site. That's kind of one of my big things. I think I've talked about it in the past. One of my biggest things that I would like to do with this channel over time, as my bank account grows, is I want to pour a lot of that money back into traveling around the country, and not quite micro dirty jobs, but kind of along the same lines. Like, I want the focus of this channel to be working alongside other guys around the country and showing kind of, because that's really one of the fascinating aspects of this industry is, here in Michigan, we do things a certain way. Down in Texas, we did things a certain way. I talked to guys in California, they do something totally different. Over there in New York, I mean, we were just talking with Dozer Dennis there in New York, and they don't do a ton of like road replacement. It's mostly mill and fills. Like, there's so many. I just talked to a civil engineer down in Alabama this week. Video coming on that next Monday. I think maybe next Monday. Alan, I'm finally doing your aggregate video. But anyway, all the stuff in Alabama is totally different. So all that to say, I would love to come out to Boston, not only because I want to come see how you guys do things, but this is also an opportunity for me. I've got a 4 and a 6-year-old kid. I want to show them the country, and what an awesome way to do that, and also get to show the world different aspects of the construction industry. So enough about me. Let's see here. Yeah, AP, that's the other amazing thing about the GPS. And again, we're so far behind technologically here in the US, it continues to astound me. So let's not even go full GPS. When I was selling equipment, I really became familiar with 2D grade systems on excavators. Like, I knew about them on skid steers with the grade boxes. I knew a little bit about them on dozers. But excavators is the one that really, when it finally clicked as to what you can do with a 2D system in an excavator, it blew my mind, to the point that I took all of our sales guys, independent of everybody else. I took all of our sales guys over and I did a mock basement dig where I dug down to what would be the sewer lead coming off of the main. You know, I fake dug down about 12 foot. And then I told them, you know, let's assume that our basement is at 5'6" or whatever. And we calculated that. And I said, okay, I need a 2.5% slope. We calculated that out coming up. And I was able to mark the bottom of my trench where the sewer lead was coming off. And I know the sewer lead is not the name. Correct me in the comments. I can't freaking remember. Anyway, So I was able to zero my bucket out on that lead, and then I was able to plug in a 2.5% slope up into the basement, knowing that was going to leave me about 8 inches under the basement floor of my subgrade. And so we dug that, and it was a mock dig, so I dug 10 foot back or whatever. And then I was able to take my bucket over here. We set a fake grade stake in the ground, and I put my bucket right on there, and I zeroed out, and then I was able to say, okay, I want to go 5.6 feet down from that hub. And I started digging my basement floor. All of that because I didn't have to wait on a grade checker, and I knew exactly where I was in relation to grade. All of that took me about 15 minutes. And that's what I was trying to explain to our sales guys. And unfortunately, you're going to find, especially if you're an owner of equipment, you're going to find, unfortunately, there's a lot of the sales force on the equipment side that have never run a piece of equipment in their life. So it was really hard for them to grasp exactly what we were doing. But what you find is it is such a time saver, not to mention now you've taken that guy out of the hole that was costing you money as a business owner. Now you've taken him out of the hole. And I'm not necessarily saying you go fire the guy and save yourself his salary, but now instead of him being in the hole and you having a driver on top of that, now you can throw that guy in the dump truck and tell him to start hauling spoils as you're digging. Like, he can be productive and make you money on the job, as opposed to being down in the hole costing you money, standing there holding a grade rod for half the day. So, again, I get so long-winded on these things, but yeah, even 2D systems, it just astounds me at how far behind the US is, because the sad truth is we're just so stinking set in our ways. The industry is so slow to change over here. So anyway, next project, James. It kind of depends on what fires up here first. So we just got through with a really, really cold bout of weather. And so my farmer buddy that owns that freaking awesome tile plow was not doing any tile work. I'm hoping within the next week or two, I get a phone call from him. I'm actually going to proactively chase him and see if we can't do another tile plow video and actually get into what they do, like the full process. I'll document the process and kind of show that through and through. If that doesn't come through first, it's probably going to be another 3 or 4 weeks from now before I'm able to get back out on a job site. I do have my trip to Ohio to go film with Fetchco scheduled for, I believe it is the first week in April, so right about a month from now. So if everything else falls through and I'm not able to do anything with my buddy Rick, I'm not able to do anything on the tile plow, it's probably going to be about 4 weeks, and I will be down with Fetchco, hopefully getting some freaking awesome footage of quad tracks pulling pans and stuff like that on some good earth moving projects. So anyway, okay, eFix has confirmed that Duck Girl is legit, so we will go check out Duck Girl. So Dan, if you're not in the industry, what are you doing right now? Are you, I haven't even looked at your profile to look at your age or anything. Are you still in school, or are you doing something else currently? Kind of what's your status? And I happen to know a guy that has a YouTube channel to help you get in the industry. So let me know if you want me to hook you up. How far are you from Dirt Boss, Dennis? Because I will totally take you up on that. I also would love to come out there to New York, and especially upstate New York. I've only been to, so this past year, you want to talk about freak timing and lucky timing. My dad had a business trip in New York City proper, and they said, why don't we make a family trip out of it? Would you guys like to come meet us? And we were like, of course, that would be awesome. And so we got to stay in downtown New York on Times Square in a hotel. And it just so happened to coincide with like 2 weeks before COVID was officially announced in the States. So as we all know, COVID was here before it was officially announced. I have a 6-year-old that puts anything and everything in his mouth. Legitimately licked the subway window in New York City. Like, my wife and I turn in slow mo. It's like totally movie slow motion. It's like, no. And he's just sticking his hands in the trash can to see what's in the trash cans, and then immediately 5 minutes later you see him with his fingers in his mouth. Like, it's like, what are you doing, son? Right before COVID. So that is the only part of New York we've seen is proper New York City, and it was amazing. But at the same time, I would love to go see upstate New York and get some of that. And especially if you're offering up bourbon and hard cider, like, I will make a stop for sure. So that would be a good trip. And I'd love to go see Dirt Boss. I'd love to go spend a day or two working with him as well. So yeah, James, that's the thing, because you're right over the US here. You get some of that stubbornness that rubs off on you guys, and yeah, you also are not going to change. Oh, Adam, is there any possibility of getting some footage of that? Not even for my channel. If you can throw some footage of that, I'd love to see that in action, especially if you could kind of give us a super quick in-cab tour of how that system works. That would be really awesome to see, and to kind of get some of these guys familiar with how 3D systems work. But yeah, it's so rare to have them here in the US. That, and to see a 345 long stick would be freaking awesome too. So if there's any way you could pull that one off, I will totally send traffic your way. So yeah, Dennis, let's keep in touch. I'm just gonna say this. I have a lot of people that I am in contact with that I have plans of going to see and would love to go see. But definitely stay in touch, because I would love to come see you and hang out, even if it's just for an afternoon on the way, or if I can schedule a day or so to come work with you. I don't know what your situation is as far as if you own a company or if you work for someone, but if the opportunity presents itself that I could come work alongside you for a day and actually run some equipment with you, dude, I'm there. I will absolutely, when the bank account refills, come see you. So yeah, you're right close. That's awesome. So Dan, you're working in retail. I mean, come on, man. What is stopping you from making the leap, buddy? Is it the air conditioning? We have air-conditioned cabs. In fact, air-conditioned cabs are becoming the norm. So we can help you out there. You let me know what the stumbling block is, brother. We'll get you into this industry. And once we've got you in the industry, any one of these guys over here in the comments will tell you, once you're in this industry, it's like getting a heroin shot, like injected right into the vein. You're never going to be the same. You will be in this industry for the rest of your life, because it's just that amazing. So and that's another great point, James. So, and by the way, Adam, I did see your comment. That's awesome. It would be awesome to get some of that footage. I would love to see that. James, 100%. That's a great point. That's actually a video that, in fact, I'm going to write it down so I don't forget. I've thought about this video a couple times, and then my goldfish brain kicks in and I forget. Never too old. So I got into the industry when I was, I believe, let's see here, I'm 36, so I was, right around 25, 26 years old, which doesn't seem like it's that old, but at the same time, when you realize that a lot of guys that were in the industry when I came into it, they had come into the industry right out of high school. They had already been in the industry for, 7, 8 years? Excuse me. Like, you do feel kind of like you're on the back end of the curve, and you're gonna spend your entire career playing catch up, and that's honestly couldn't be further from the truth. You are never too old to get into it, especially if you're willing to learn and keep your head down, keep your mouth quiet, and learn. You're never too old to get into this industry. You can absolutely jump in. I can't tell you how many guys that are probably 50 plus that are coming out of a career doing something totally unrelated in the office that have messaged me and asked if it's too late. And the answer is no, especially in this economy when the industry is hurting this bad for operators. If you are willing to learn and put in the work, it is not too late to get into it, man. Just hop on over. People will be glad to have someone that's joining the workforce. So, and we, all of us here, we will welcome you with open arms, brother. It would be awesome to gain another operator. And really, the barriers to entry are so stinking low right now. Literally start applying and let them know that you're willing to put in the time on the shovel and you're willing to learn and you're willing to work. You're not going to have a problem getting hired. And that's how you get in. You don't have to do anything special. So how many people we got now? It seemed to pick up there for a minute. 21, look at that. Coming up in the world. My God, I'm starting to feel like a legit channel. Sweet. So I tell you what, I need a little more ice for my feminine drink, because as you can see, we are running low. So I'm going to hit this be right back screen. I'm going to go upstairs and I'm going to refill my cup with ice. In the meantime, because obviously you guys are slacking here in the comments, let's get some questions going. Come on, chop, chop, chop. So yeah, when I come back, I will start answering whatever questions you guys put into the queue. So give me about 2 minutes. I'll be right back. Okay, we are back. We are refreshed with ice. We're gonna top off with a little pea juice. We're just gonna call it that. That's right, Phil. Going up and I will say this. So I have noticed in the previous videos, I think I may have mentioned this on the last one. I've noticed that this lighting absolutely makes me look high. I don't smoke before these. It's literally the light is so bright and we're doing these late at night that it just makes me look high. So I am safe to hire. You can hire me. I just drink. I'm not smoking on these things. So AP, what kind of hours? It's a great question. It totally depends on who you work for and what kind of company you work for. Yeah, as James just said there at the bottom, yeah, you can absolutely work for some larger companies, especially in the north, which James and I both live in. Let's see here, who else? Dozer Dennis is in the north. I can't remember where you're at. Adam, aren't you down south in like Florida or something? I can't remember where Adam is. But anywhere you're in the north, generally at your larger companies, you're going to pull crazy hours during the summer because you've only got about a 6 to 7 month window to do all of your work before everything freezes over again. And so we would commonly work 6 or 7 days a week when I was at Dan's, and we were pulling, let's see here, I think I was on site by 5:30, maybe it was 6 a.m., and we would cut out probably about 8 or 8:30, right about the time light started dying off. And so you can get into some really long hours, or you can work for some smaller companies and they work a pretty reasonable 40 hours a week, maybe 50 if you've got some overtime that you've got to put in to finish a basement here or there. So it really depends on who you work for and how hard they push. So, James is 37. Yeah, I'm 36, man. I'm right there with you. Let's see here. Never worked another job. 29 now. So what's your scope of work, eFix? Just out of curiosity, you said you're running a loader doing snow removal right now. What do you guys do during the regular season? Are you primarily residential, commercial? What do you do, brother? Phil's 38. Man, we got an old man in here. What's going on? I had no idea you were part of the geriatric ward, brother. Which, by the way, Phil, I randomly thought about this the other day. I'm assuming because you haven't complained, you finally got the rest of your order. But will you confirm that so I can stop worrying about it? I randomly thought about that. I think it was 2 nights ago. So, eFix 100%. That was one of the things for the video that I did on your resume when I was talking to HR people. They can 100% tell right off the bat who wants to be there versus who's looking for an easy paycheck that doesn't require them going to school. Like, there's a huge difference, and they 100% respond to that. So, yes, I will back that up 1,000%. AP, I would love to come work where you are. That you only, like, 4:30. Like, that's a casual Saturday for us over here. Like, that's yeah, it's Saturday, so we're not going to work a long day. And so you only work till 4:30 instead of 8:30. So that would be nice. Yeah, and M. Miller, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. I'm all about those hours. That's fantastic. I would love to work those hours. Off-road dump truck or in the hole, where would you start? Turner, that's a great question. That's a hard question, believe it or not. If I had to pick, as much as you'll probably hate the answer, I would say probably on the shovel. The reason being is because you get so much experience and you get that perspective of being down in the hole. And you get the knowledge of what your laborers are going to be doing. So for instance, let's take it super simple. You're digging a basement. If you're the one hooking onto the sewer lead, you're going to know how much room you need to over dig for your laborer to have enough room to make that connection. If you're digging a water line in, you need to know that you need to dig just a hair past the stop box so that they have enough room that they can pull that stop box out of their way and get to the valve and actually access everything. When it comes to digging your basement grade, you're going to be in the hole, so you get a visual sight picture of what that ground looks like in the hole. And that way, when you go up top and you're actually in the machine, you realize that no, it's not perfectly flat. You do have some humps in there, but you can't see that unless you've been down in the hole. Now let's take it a step further and let's go to road work. You start laying storm pipe. If you've never laid storm pipe or sanitary pipe before or water main before, like, you're not going to have a clue what needs to come next and why you're digging the way that you are or anything like that. And you don't get that experience sitting in an on-road or an off-road truck. You can observe to a degree, but unless you've actually been in the hole and know what the steps are and know what your top man's doing and what the guys down in the trench are doing, you're not going to know that. So I do think there's a ton of value when it comes to being on the end of the shovel. It also, because you've been the guy on the end of the shovel that's had to clean up after an operator before, I think it makes you an overall better operator because you're considerate of your laborer. Instead of doing kind of a half-assed job and saying, hey, it's good enough, he can shovel it out. No, you've been the guy on the end of the shovel and you know how much work that is. Even though it doesn't seem like that much when you're sitting in the seat of the hoe, you realize what that work entails, and so it makes you a better operator. It makes you a tidier operator. You're more aware. Your situational awareness of what the trench banks are doing is going to be significantly better because you've been the guy in the hole. You know what to look for, you know what to watch for, and now that you're in the hoe, you've got your laborer's back. While he's got his back turned and he's making his connection or he's setting his grade, whatever he's doing, you're able to watch the bank and know what to look for when conditions are getting dangerous and when you need to tell him he needs to move. So from that standpoint, I would say absolutely, if you can spend time on the shovel, you should. But that being said, being in an off-road truck absolutely has advantages as well. You get to spend a lot more time observing other operators because you aren't as busy as you are as a laborer. You do have some downtime when you're waiting in the queue to go to the hoe. You've got time to sit there and actually watch the operators run the equipment. The one thing you have to be very careful of, and I've said this before, is it's very easy if you get stuck on a roller or an off-road truck. Stay off of this. It is so tempting to just, hey, I'll pop on Facebook real quick, or I'll see Bryan's live stream real quick because I'm just sitting waiting for the hoe. That you're missing valuable learning experiences when you do that. You need to be looking around, you need to be observing other operators, otherwise all of that time is just wasted. And to be honest, what will happen is you will miss your queue a couple times and you're going to get honked at, and then you're going to get bitched at because now you're costing the whole team production. So if you can do a good job of staying off your phone, a roller or an off-road truck seat is another great way to learn. So I hope that answers your question. That was a fantastic question. Thank you. So AP, to go back to what you had said, that's the way it was down in Texas. It was a year-round operation, so the hours weren't quite as hairy. But I also worked for one of the larger contractors down there in Central Texas, and we still pulled some hours. We worked 6 days a week. Saturdays, I think we got out at noon, but you were on the site by 7 a.m. So, I mean, you're still pulling 3/4 of a day. And I think during our daytime, we were on site at 7 and we would get out at 5. So you're still, you're 11 to 12 hours, depending on if you have to go over a little bit to get your quota for the day. Okay, so eFix, you guys are doing some decent jobs. Pavers, city parks. Okay, so you hit a little bit of everything. That's a nice mix. Phil, let me know. So when it comes to those hats, so with all of my apparel, I am kind of in the process of investigating switches. Right now I go through Printful, which is one of those print on demand companies. So none of their stuff is like amazing quality. It's not terrible, but it's not amazing quality. And they charge me a shitload of money. That's half the reason my prices are high on my shirts and everything. So I'm in the process of possibly converting over to doing it in-house myself through someone locally, which means that I can get my prices down a little bit better on some of my stuff, but more importantly to me, the quality will get a little bit better. So all that to say, let me know if you want another hat, and I might be able to ship that to you quicker than the last one got there. No guarantees, because I don't know a whole lot about international shipping, but let me know. Richie, another Texan. It's awesome to have a Texan boy in here. I'm from Austin originally, if you didn't catch that from earlier. So Midland, yeah, that's ugly territory out there. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be offensive, but it is not the prettiest part of Texas up there in Midland. 8 a.m. to 1:30. Yeah, so AP, you're working about the same hours we were working in Texas on our Saturday shifts. So M. Miller, I'm just going to call you Miller. 100%. If you've got a good boss, if you've got a good company, and this is what I wish more of the industry would recognize now. They're slowly coming around to it. You know, the traditional way of dealing with people was to just bitch and scream at them until they fell in line. And slowly over time, they're starting to learn that if you treat your people well and you appreciate them, they actually work harder. They're more loyal. So it's good to hear that you work for one of those guys that actually appreciates you and treats you well. So that's awesome that you have one of those companies. I would absolutely stick with them. And that's another thing that kind of irks me about the young generation too, about how quick they are to kind of jump ship when anyone offends them. Like, that's a two-way street. If you've got an employer that has invested in you, and they treat you well, if they bitch at you one time because you did something and screwed up, you don't need to go run away. Like, you need to show some loyalty back, and you need to stick around, because ultimately it's kind of like I talk to my kids. Like, the reason you get disciplined, the reason you get corrected isn't because they hate you and you've done a piss poor job. The reason they're correcting you is because they are pouring into you, they are investing in you, they are teaching you so that you can stay with the company as a valuable asset. So allow yourself to be taught, because it's only going to serve you better. And if you learn with that company and if you stick it out, you will gain respect with the people that you work with, you'll gain the respect of your superiors, and ultimately you will grow into a bigger position at that company. But the second you run away because someone yelled at you and hurt your feelings, you don't ever get the opportunity to grow. You're always going to stay at the bottom, because part of growing in any industry, take earth moving and construction out of it, part of growing in any industry is being taught. And you have to be teachable. Like, that's just part of life. You have to be teachable. So, why did I leave Texas, Dan? I found a pretty girl that was from Michigan. So, little sidebar, non-construction related story there. I married. I went to high school with a girl, and her sister, her half sister from Michigan, used to come up and visit every year, and we were kind of sweet on each other. But she was in Michigan and I was in Texas, and that was impractical. And so we just kind of would flirt when she was in town, and then she would go back to Michigan all through high school. And then ultimately what happened in college, this is when Instant Messenger, if I'm going to date myself, AOL Instant Messenger became popular, and we started talking in college, and ultimately I moved to Michigan to marry said pretty girl. And then I took her back to Texas for 3.5 years, tried my hand at a landscape business, failed because of some illegal labor force that I was competing with that you just can't compete with. And ultimately she had a really big family, so when the business ended up closing up shop, I gave up on staying in Texas because she wanted to come home to her family. And so we moved back to Michigan. I've been back in Michigan now for about 9 years now. So that is why I've left Texas. And now that I've left and Austin has changed so much, I don't know that I want to go back, because I've also burned myself because I'm used to the cooler weather now. And now going down to Texas and being in that 100-degree heat, like, kills me. I used to landscape in that stuff. And now if it gets over 90 degrees, I'm like, oh God, I'm dying. So I don't know that I can handle it. Yeah, Richie, Austin is a nice city. I will say 10 years ago, it was a lot nicer. Like, the homeless population has gotten out of control. Traffic, because the city planning was so poor, traffic has gotten unbelievably out of control. It's not what it used to be. Hey James, thanks for stopping in, man. Appreciate it. We'll catch you on the next one. So yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought saying bye to James. So anyway, Austin, yeah, it's totally changed the. It's funny because everyone that's familiar with Austin, Texas, it's had the "Keep Austin Weird" was the motto, and it was this weird Like, you're in the middle of super, super conservative Texas, yet it's this super liberal, like, weird melting pot of people, and it was really cool. Super active live music scene. It was known as the live music capital of the world, and like that was a really cool aspect of the city. And what's happened is so many people have moved from California, I hate to say it, but California, and they've just changed the entire dynamic of the city. We used to have a lot of live music establishments that ended up getting shut down because, and this is what blows my mind and irritates the snot out of me, you'd have all of these Californians move into a subdivision that's right next door to this live music place. They moved into the houses knowing that this was a live music place. They then turned around and filed a bunch of noise complaints with the live music place and got the live music place shut down. Even though it was a staple, it had been there like since the 50s or 60s, and it was like this pivotal foundational pillar of the community, they would get them shut down because of the noise complaints. Like, that's the sort of ridiculousness that Austin has turned into. And that's part of the reason that I really, like, for a long time, for probably 4 or 5, maybe even 6 years, I really was homesick for Austin. And then I kind of went back for a trip, and that was like a total eye-opener to me. And it was like, this isn't home anymore. So anyway, there's my story that was way overkill for the question you asked. Dominican Republic. Ooh, my only experience with Dominican Republic was going to Punta Cana, and we loved it. And then we found out like 3 years later that everyone was dying because they had bootleg liquor, and that was a little terrifying. But I would love to go back. It was beautiful there. AP, that's a great point. So it took me a second because our conversation's bouncing to figure out what you were referencing. But yeah, that's a great point. So in this industry, when you get bitched at, like, I've had multiple foremen chew my ass to the point that it hurt to sit down. And I was under the impression that they just, let me move this out of frame so it's not so distracting. I was under the impression that, like, I was this failure. I had done a terrible job. Like, I'm on their shit list now. And no, what you find out is exactly what AP said. Like, 20 minutes, half hour later, like, it's not even on their radar anymore. That's just how the industry handles any sort of corrective issue. It's getting better. Like, overall, the industry is getting better at that, but for years and years and years, that's the way things were handled. So it's already 9 o'clock. Wow. So anyway, railroads. Andy, good question. I don't have an answer. Unfortunately, I do not have an answer for you on that. I have no experience working in the railroads. I have no knowledge of anyone who does work on the railroads. I don't know, man, and I apologize. Like, that's one of the few areas in this industry that I have zero knowledge. Like, I don't even have anything to, like, BS throw out there. So I'm sorry. I am not helpful on this one. AP 100%, all of that. You've got to be able to take a joke. I spent the entire first part of this live stream giving Nick Santamaria shit about the fact that he recommended this girly pink drink. If you guys didn't see the beginning, I even went so far as to go empty one of my wife's purses and claim that this was given to me when I purchased said pink Whitney drink. Like, that's the amount of shit that you're going to catch in this industry. It's like, it's part of it. Like, that's ingrained in the industry. You have to roll with that. You have to realize that it's all in fun. It's all done. And I know this is going to be a weird term to throw around in this industry, but like, that's how you show affection in this industry. That's how you show that you're buds and that you're friends, is you give each other crap, and it's nonstop. And a lot of time it's brutal and it cuts you to the bone. But that's part of what I love about this industry is, like, dive into that for a second. Why do the insults cut to the bone? It's because you spend 16 hours a day with your crew. Like, it's kind of an unfortunate thing to say, but sometimes you spend more time with your crew than you do your own family. You know each other like brothers. It's one thing to throw around the brother term in these chats and online and where it's nice and cushy, but when you're on the job site, like, you're literally brothers with these guys. You spend so many hours with them. You know each other really well. Excuse me. And that's why those jabs cut so deep. But that's why all of us who understand what's really happening, that's why we like it, that's why we enjoy it, is because the reason you're able to cut that guy so deep is because you know he went through some nasty freaking divorce 3 years ago because his wife was cheating on him. Like, that's what you sat around and talked about at lunch one day. And this is a brutal industry where the next thing you do is you turn right around and you throw that shit right back in his face and you make fun of him for being so lazy and so worthless that his wife cheated on him. Like, it's done out of love. It sounds terrible, but like, that's part of the industry. So you just have to recognize that about this industry, and you've got to roll with the punches. So Ryan, great question. I hate them. That's personal preference. I hate 4-in-1 buckets. So you can do some cool things with them, don't get me wrong, like being able to clamp down on stuff and grab stuff, like that's handy. My biggest problem with 4-in-1 buckets is number one, they're so stinking heavy because you've got so much more iron there to kind of reinforce that bucket structure. You've got extra cutting edges. You've got a bunch of, not to mention the hydraulic system to make it operate. So that's number one. Number two is you've got this massive heavy bucket hanging out there, and the capacity is like half of what a normal bucket is. So outside of asphalt and concrete work, those are the two industries where I've watched guys make 4-in-1 buckets just hum. I mean, it is amazing watching what those guys can do and how well they can clean up a job with a 4-in-1 bucket. Like, it totally makes sense in those circumstances to have that because they're using it effectively and there's no better tool for it. But for regular dirt work, I absolutely, like, if I ever got stuck on a machine with a 4-in-1 bucket, I hated my life because it feels like, especially after you've worked with a full capacity bucket, it feels like you're dipping into a pile with a teaspoon. I mean, you come away with this like huge heaping bucket and then you dump it and like 4 pebbles fall out. And it's like, where did the load go? But it's because of the way those buckets are designed. They have to have that structural component to create the clamshell. You just lose all your capacity. So that's my personal opinion. You know, take it for what it is. Andy, yes, Pink Whitney is good. I will confess, as much shit as I've been giving him for it, Pink Whitney is good. It is going down really smooth, and unfortunately that means that I am feeling it already, which is why I'm chatting so quick and I'm so loose tonight. But yeah, that's one of those dangerous drinks. It goes down a little too smooth. So Dan, 100%. Yeah, like that's part of being family. Like think about your blood family. Like, you give them crap about things that you know are going to sting a little bit. Like, it's all of the inside jokes that make being part of a family fun. And that's no different than being on a job site. Like, it's the fact that you know each other so intimately, you're able to make these inside jokes and you're able to hit them with these little zingers because you know each other so well. One of the only guys that we lost on a job site, I wasn't on the job site when it happened, but I had worked with this guy for a year. He was a laborer, and he had went and filled in on another crew over a weekend because he wanted to earn some extra hours. And while he was out there, he was in a trench that was about 4 foot deep. It was right at the cutoff where you needed to bench it. It was not that deep, but the soil was soft. He was standing like you often do, kind of leaning on your shovel, and a piece of the bank caved and pushed him over front of his shovel. It didn't actually penetrate. My theory is it actually slipped up under his rib cage, and that's kind of where everything comes together to go into your heart. And I think really it ruptured that artery right there, and he bled out because they said they pulled him out of the hole. He was alive, and then within a couple minutes he was gone. For me personally, I'm not looking to get any sympathy. That was not, it sucked. You spend a year with that guy, you obviously get to know him, and it sucked. But what was really powerful to me was the hoe operator on that crew was truly devastated. And come to find out, he and that laborer had worked together for like 15 years. And that's one of the really cool aspects of this industry is you have those relationships. You work alongside guys, and you get to know each other so well. I've talked about it before on my channel that I worked with a laborer for 3-4 years, and even at the 3 and 4 year mark, we could communicate without talking. Like, we could look across the job site and we had our own hand signals and we had our own communication methods and I still hear from him. I still randomly get a call from him, or I'll call him, a couple times a year just to touch base. But you develop these relationships in the industry, but you are family in this industry. When you're on a crew that's consistent and you're not bouncing around, you develop family relationships with these guys, and a lot of times it's to the point that your families know each other, your wives are friends, because you guys are gone all the time. A lot of times the wives will start to become friends and communicate back and forth. Like it is absolutely, there is a brotherhood aspect of this that goes much further than the kind of surface level throwing the brother term around that happens so often on YouTube. And that is really one of the powerful, awesome aspects of this industry. So Richie, I appreciate that. I really do. I appreciate the support of all of you guys who have subscribed. This was totally, let's go out on a limb and see if we can make this channel work, and it has really become a passion of mine. And to have you guys reflect the appreciation and the interest, and it's really been humbling to see the feedback from you guys. So I can't tell you thank you enough. Well, let's see here. Oh, AP 100%. And likewise, like, you have to give each other crap for not knowing stuff. Like, I had a foreman one time that said, go get a piece of lath out of the back of the truck. And I was like, I have no idea what lath is. But I was like, no, I got this. There's only a handful of things in the back of the truck that it could be. Like, I'll just go pick something that I don't know what it is, and that should probably be lath. So it turns out there were like 2 or 3 things in the back of his truck that I didn't know what they were. So then it became just an educated guess, and I guessed wrong. And so I brought him, I don't even remember what I grabbed. So I come back to him, and I'm holding this thing in my hand, and he's like, a piece of lath. And I just looked at him with a blank stare, and he's like, you don't know what a piece of lath is? It's like, no, I have no idea. And he starts giving me crap about it. But at the same time, like, it's all good. I recognize I have no idea. I totally recognize I tried to pull this off and I failed at it. So I got some shit over that one. But that's, it's part of being in the industry. That's what makes it fun. So yeah, AP, that's 100%. And that's not even, like, that's part of the overall bigger picture brotherhood. Like, even if you don't work intimately with the guy that is in trouble, the fact that you have someone on the job in trouble, it is amazing the number of people who will stop everything that they're doing and try to help, or the number of people, we had a guy that opened a radiator cap and burned himself pretty good. Like, the number of people who continue to ask how he's doing that you didn't think really knew him or cared about him. It is a really unique thing about this industry that is really cool. It's awesome to be a part of a family that you weren't born into, that the binding agent is what you chose to do as an occupation. Like, that's a really awesome aspect of this industry, and that's something that I've always really respected about this industry. So cool stuff. Sorry to bring it down. I didn't mean to bum everybody out. That wasn't where I really intended to go with this, but so we're dropping off. Only 16 of us now. And I just poured another glass of this freaking girly drink. Come on now, guys. Anybody else got any questions for me this evening? Because I don't really have anything else to talk about. That being said, with how late we went last week, I'm okay if we cut this one a little shorter. Last week, you guys wore me out. We were up till 10:30. That's late. I'm an old man. Yeah, see, this is the awkwardness where I have nothing to talk about and no one's talking in the chat. Like, I just, I might have to sit here and just sip this feminine beverage for a bit and buy some time. That's awesome. That's awesome, AP. Yeah, Ryan, that's the thing. Like, as much as, like, the second they pointed, I asked, because obviously I don't buy this stuff, and so I asked where it was located, and the second that they pointed to it on the shelf, I was just like, oh, that giant neon highlighter drink that says I'm a college sorority girl. Like, that's what I'm buying. I didn't want to like this. I really wanted to take a sip of it and just turn away in disgust. But unfortunately, I am now on my second glass of it. So it is good. I failed at what I set out to do. So, Miller's going to take us down the road of making me choose equipment. Here's where, if Nick was on, Nick, by the way, is responsible for this whole drink. He is currently out pushing snow in a loader. I mentioned that earlier. So he is unable to be here to defend himself. Now, this is where I will also take advantage, because he would give me total crap at your question. I'm a huge fan of Case equipment. I know this is going to upset a lot of people. So Case obviously has the reputation, can't afford something else, yada, yada, yada. I primarily ran Cat and Komatsu. I ran a fair amount of Deer as well when I was in the industry running equipment every day. So I was well versed in their stuff. And I too had the feelings towards Case that it was like the cheaper bottom end equipment. But then I went into selling equipment, and I hired in at a Case dealership. And so I have really come to, from running the equipment, I had a very unique perspective because I was the only salesman in the entire company that I worked for that actually had equipment experience. And so when I went out and ran a piece of equipment, it wasn't like to sit in the seat and look at how pretty the cab was and look at all of the fake, leather and all that stuff. Like, no, I legitimately went out and put the equipment through its paces. And so when it comes to dozers, 100% I love Case dozers. They push like nobody's business. When you get over an 850, which is a D5 equivalent, once you get over a D5 equivalent, Case on the smaller dozer still has pilot control. So it's really rough on your wrist. Once you get over that though, and you get into the EH controls like Cat, they are really, really smooth grading machines. It's like running a Cat D6K, except you don't have the super fast, super jittery controls that make it really hard to grade. They're just really, really nice dozers. Their loaders, I love their loaders because they have a real transmission. They've shuffled the engine all the way to the back and moved the cooling package to right behind the cab, which is a genius thing to do. My only beef with their loaders, and it is a big beef, is the engineers thought they could get away with significantly less counterweight in the back because they moved that engine weight back. And in reality, they took too much counterweight away. So they don't have the ass to be able to lift some heavy loads like the other competitors do. Outside of that, though, I love the Case loaders. When it comes to excavators, Kobelco, hands down, in my opinion, they make the best excavator in the market. Down to mini excavators. Once you get into mini excavators, they still make a good machine. It's just, I think there are others that have done a better job with the in-cab feel of being nice. And then there's also manufacturers like Yanmar that have done a better job of stripping it down to a true bare bones machine, which is what the Kobelco feels like. But you can get into a Yanmar for far cheaper because they actually stripped all the bells and whistles out, versus the Kobelco, it's just they haven't polished the cab enough. So all that to say, I don't necessarily have a favorite. I think each one does certain things well. But yeah, I would say Case is one of my favorite brands now after having run them. Case and Kobelco have really, really taken a lot of the spotlight away from Cat and Deer specifically. So Turner G, Bobcat. Specifically, are we talking skid steers or are we talking excavators? I can tell you I am not a fan of their excavators. I think they're severely underpowered, especially when you get down into the E26. That is one of the worst mini excavators I have run in my life. It was super jerky and jittery. My buddy Rick also confirmed that. He spent half a day laughing at me because I was operating like such crap until he sat in the seat, and then he realized it wasn't me just having an off day. Like literally the machine was that jerky. So I'm not a huge fan of the Bobcat equipment. The other thing I don't like about Bobcat is they're kind of turning into the Apple of the equipment world. I ran into this while I was selling equipment, and it thoroughly pissed me off. They are starting to make their attachments to where they have a chip in them that will communicate with the machine. And if you're not running the attachment on a Bobcat machine, the attachment won't work. That's crap, in my opinion. Everybody else in the industry makes their attachments interchangeable, and that really made me angry. I had a customer that they were an asphalt customer, and they had a cold planer that they would use for doing their small piecework, and I told them, yeah, absolutely, that will fit right up to the machine, because it has always, from the dawn of time, a skid steer attachment has made it to any other skid steer. And so they invested, 80 grand into this brand new top end skid steer. Come to find out, we had to totally rewire the entire harness on the attachment to make it talk to our machine. And then it no longer talked to their existing Bobcat machine that they kept. So that pissed me off too. So I have a little bit of a beef with Bobcat on the way that they're doing things. So AP, that's interesting. I wonder why a fox was taken off with grease. That's pretty funny. Ryan, let me know if I didn't answer your question, and also Turner as well. Let me know if I didn't answer your questions. But that's kind of my overall thoughts on Bobcat. So, and Andy, you're totally right. It's so hard. Because that's, in all honesty, what I just talked about is the actual, excuse me. Whew, Pink Whitney's putting up a fight. That's just like everything I talked about was like the operational aspect. There's a whole other aspect that you have to consider as an equipment owner, and that's the service side. And sometimes that's Yanmar. Yanmar is the brand in your area because they can get out there. Sometimes it's Bobcat because they're the brand that can get out there. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how nice or terrible a piece of equipment is. Uptime is king. Uptime is what is making you money, and downtime is your worst enemy. And so if it turns out that Cat has great equipment, but it takes them 2 weeks to get out to service your machine when it goes down, Cat ain't that's not your pick. And likewise, Case, as much as I love Case, if your Case dealership is crap and they don't take care of you, Case ain't your machine. You need to switch paint colors. So there's so many other aspects that go into it. Ryan, how's it going? Thanks for joining, man. Appreciate you being here. A Liebherr dozer. Wow. So the only Liebherr dozer I've ever come into contact with was an older John Deere that was rebranded. And it was before Deere got into making dozers that size. This was like I want to say this was like a D8 equivalent. And it was a Liebherr that was rebranded. Was not impressed with the machine, but it was old and tired. So I try not to hold it against it, but you don't see Liebherr over here that much. So that's interesting. So, see, Richie, Bobcat to me, that's one of my biggest beefs with their mini excavators. Their mini excavators don't have power. Like I've been totally underwhelmed by their mini excavator line. And I tried. I don't have a dog in the hunt anymore. Like I don't sell equipment. I don't have someone that I work for that has a specific brand preference. And so I try to be pretty objective, and Bobcat just has not impressed me. I've just not been happy with their mini excavators. AP, in the right circumstances, those zero radius machines are awesome because of the geometry. So it's very interesting. Even though you have a shorter counterweight, they actually oftentimes have a higher lift capacity. And when you look at why, It's because of where the boom attaches on the machine. On a traditional conventional excavator, the boom is attaching on the very, so like let's take our excavator. This is the front over here, and this is your rear counterweight. The boom is actually attached all the way on the front of the body. But on a zero swing machine, that's actually moved back to where it attaches in the closer to the center of the machine. And so even though you have a smaller, shorter counterweight, because the boom is moved back, it substantially increases the amount of lift capacity of that machine before it tips. So those are wicked machines in the right circumstances. My big beef with them is the cost, first of all, because you've now crammed an entire excavator's worth of stuff into a tiny, tiny footprint. And along those same lines, maintenance. If you've got to get to anything in the engine compartment on a zero swing, I would just hire it done. Like, I don't even want to mess with it. It is such a tiny, jumbled mess where they've tried to squeeze everything in there. So that's my real big beef with the zero swing machines. But it's nice not to have to worry about your counterweight swinging. It's nice to have the extra lift capacity. So yeah, Miller, that doesn't surprise me at all. So Case made a huge mistake. They rushed their Alpha series to the market, and it had a crap load of issues, and they spent the entire existence of the Alpha series trying to stomp out fires. Like, it wasn't even like they totally corrected anything. They've gone around stomping out fires. They have just come out in the last year with the B series, and from what I understand, they went in and fixed a bunch of the issues that were happening with the Alpha series. Now, it's still new enough. I haven't heard a ton of feedback and reports if it's truly corrected yet. But in theory, it should all be corrected at this point. So they should be a much better machine. But, again, along the lines of faux pas that Case has made, they did it with their dozer line 15 years ago or so. They rushed a dozer line to the market, had a bunch of issues, and for a long time, Case dozers. So traditionally, the old Case dozers were just tanks and everybody loved them. And then you hit this era where Case was known as having shit dozers, and it's because of this one series that they pushed out there. They weren't ready to go to market, and they dealt with issue after issue after issue. And the same thing just happened with their skid steer line. Like the old skid steers, like I've had too much pink Whitney and I can't remember models, but God, I can't even remember the freaking model names. Anyway, the old Case skid steers, like, they're known, and they are still known in the industry for being absolute tanks. You can run them through anything and they just keep running. And then you get to the Alpha series and they're just garbage. And they were garbage for a long time, up until probably 2016 is when you could finally start comfortably getting into an Alpha series skid, knowing that it wasn't going to have a crap load of issues out the gate. And so I'm hoping with the B series they've corrected a lot of those, because there are some nice features of the Case. The Case has great visibility, like far above and beyond anyone else in the industry. And I like the ergonomics of the new grips in the machine. They've got a nice screen now in the machine. Like, there are a lot of things that Case has done right on the B series. But again, kind of going back to outside of the operational aspect, like, if the machine doesn't run consistently, it doesn't matter. So I'm hoping they've fixed a lot of that. So yeah, eFix, I'm with you. If they could get rid of some of the issues on the Alpha series, if it truly got corrected in the B series. Another thing they corrected in the B series is they totally revamped the EH controls. So one of the big complaints that I also share with the industry is the EH controls are just super jumpy. They don't feel, the feedback doesn't really correspond to how you would think it would work in the machine, and it never, like, you never get used to it. I don't know how to explain it really, other than you never get used to the hydraulics in the skid. It never feels natural. And in the B series, they revamped the controls themselves. They revamped the valves. They revamped every aspect of the EH controls, and it is 100% different. And I have sat in one of the new B series, and I can personally attest, it is way better. The EH controls are way better in the B series. So AP, that is great to know that yet another aspect of this industry is helping Mother Nature by feeding small fox cubs our grease. Like, I'm glad that we can help. That's terrible, man. That's terrible. eFix. There are a ton of things that Case is like the last in the industry to adopt. I was on my rep and I gave him so much crap for the fact that the 750 and the 850 dozer still have pilot controls. There's a small portion of the industry that likes the pilot controls because in their defense, you do get the feedback in real time in your hand. The problem is your right arm looks like freaking Popeye because your forearm is so freaking huge, and your wrist always has carpal tunnel because of the fact that you're having to twist that freaking handle so hard. And I used to give him so much crap. Like, you're the only ones in the industry that haven't come out with EH controls for the full line of your dozers. Like, only ones. And they're finally, supposedly, coming out with EH controls in the next model whenever that drops. So, but yeah, there are so many things with Case that I go, you were this close. You were this close to having it just dead on, and you missed the mark. And the way that you missed the mark killed the machine. Like not having EH controls on a 750 or 850. Like, you were this close. The dozer is so good. But the fact that it doesn't have EH kills it. So, yeah, that's Case in a nutshell. Yeah, Ryan, that's it, man. That is actually something that when I get asked those questions about which equipment do I prefer, the honest truth is everybody has their own little spin on a certain thing about this piece of equipment, whether it be an excavator, loader, dozer. But at the end of the day, no one puts out an absolute 100% piece of junk with the exception of Sany. And this is where I'm really going to offend someone, AP. JCB, I'm sorry I said it. I'm sorry. That's just their reputation in the States that they continue to prove as being accurate. But anyway, outside of those two, like, no one puts out a true piece of crap machine. And so really it does boil down to, like, what color of paint do you like? And what bells and whistles do you like that this guy doesn't offer over here? So, see, Miller, that's really interesting. Where are you at, out of curiosity, that you've got a Liebherr dealership? Because I'm trying to think. I think we do actually have a Liebherr dealership here, but it is a hole in the wall. Like, their whole equipment yard has like 6 pieces of equipment in it. Like, I've never understood how they've stayed in business because they don't have any equipment because it's such a small dealership. So, Ryan, favorite piece of equipment to operate? That's a hard one, man, because it's not as easy as you would think. From a challenge, from a mental challenge standpoint, I will always go with a loader on a pipe crew, because it's go. You're always having to think 10 steps ahead. You've got 18 things on your mind at any given point in time. The day flies by because you're always on the go. And I enjoy a challenge, especially a mental challenge. When it comes to relaxing, if I can get in like a 349 bombing trucks all day off of a stockpile, like, that is a super soothing, relaxing, enjoyable day. I thoroughly enjoy running an excavator. When you're doing precision digging, like, that's another aspect where you do get a little bit of that mental challenge. And so I do really enjoy driving. What kind of operator am I? I really do enjoy operating excavators. But then you get into a dozer, and dude, hogging material in a dozer, especially when you start getting into like the D6R and stuff like that, a D6T, like, it is freaking fun hogging material. And it's also really fun when you do some precision grading, being able to look back at the end of the day and see like how nice you can get that site looking. So I don't really have a favorite. Like each one has its own place and its own aspect that I like about it. And then like we just got through talking about like the favorite brand, it all depends on what machine. Dozer, it's going to be a Case. Excavator, it's going to be a Kobelco. Loader, it's probably going to be a Case or a Cat. The Case, because I like it, it's got a real transmission. The Cat, because it's got more ass and it's just a really nice cab. It's a really nice machine and it's got power. So it just depends on the machine. Tint windows. Richie, I'm all about tint windows, man. It gets so stinking hot in cabs. So many people outside of the industry especially don't realize that those cabs are like, yeah, you are sort of out of the elements, but they're also giant greenhouses on wheels. When I was running my Komatsu WA320, that cab got so effing hot with the AC on full blast. Excuse me. It got so freaking hot in that machine. So I am all about having tint on the machine. Like, not to mention outside of just the comfort factor, it keeps the sun from beating down on everything in the cab and drying everything out and cracking the interior and making it just baked. So I'm all about it. Ryan, that is a fantastic question. I have actually, believe it or not, behind the scenes. So if any of you guys that watched my Kentucky video, one of the things I didn't actually talk about, but kind of gave you a little glimpse behind the curtain, is how much time goes into phone calls and prep and setting up to make these videos. Another aspect that I have been working on avidly behind the scenes, pulling from my own industry contacts from when I sold the equipment, is trying to get in the seat of the Minotaur. I am dying to get in the seat of a Minotaur. So far I have been unsuccessful, but I have probably spent 2-ish hours collectively on the phone with different people trying to somehow hook that up, possibly going out to Tomahawk, which is their big facility out in, Wisconsin, I think, where they take people out and wine and dine them and train and do all that stuff. So my initial thoughts are, if it holds up to the hype and what everyone says it is capable of, I think it's going to be a total game changer for your smaller guys that do basements and finish grades for primarily residential. Because now, instead of having to take a skid out to cart your material around and take like a little D3 out to do your dozer work, you have one machine now that can do all of that. Your landscape crews, now you have a very capable machine that not only can it haul all of your palletized goods around and have the ass to really do it, but now you can flip over and put that dozer blade on it, and that thing is fully capable of running GPS. So you can run a 2D system or you can run a full 3D Leica system on it and legit have a dozer that can carry real grades. Like, your finish crews could really benefit from that machine. They've got the option. You can run it in one of 3 configurations. You can run it with steel single bar grouser tracks like a dozer. You can run it in steel triple bar grouser tracks like an excavator, or you can run it with the rubber band style tracks like a traditional skid. That offers a ton of versatility to guys. So I think if it does as well as they say it does, the initial feedback I've gotten from people who have sat in it have said it's a really capable machine. And if that is true, I think it'll be a real game changer, and I'm really excited to see how it does on the market. I do think Case is being really smart here. They only put 20-ish machines out on the market for the first year, which is why you don't hear about them very much. It's almost like doing a soft open for a restaurant. They were very conservative on putting those machines into the marketplace, and they are hawkeyeing every single issue they have with them before they fully roll out and really start going out with distributing to dealerships. So we realistically won't see that machine take off until probably sometime next year, because on top of that, you also have the fact that COVID just threw a giant wrench in everybody's production plans. So I think it'll probably be 2022 before you really see that machine start to roll out. So, let's see here. Belmont, Ohio. Interesting. So Rico Equipment. Miller, that's interesting. I want to say Rico is actually the same dealership that's up here in Michigan, and their store up here is pathetic. Like, no joke, like 6 or 7 pieces of equipment. That's their whole yard. So I know, AP. I know. I knew I was gonna hurt your feelings a little bit by saying that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, and I will agree. They are geared for you guys. You guys are a different animal over there, but that's where they didn't really do a good job of adapting the product to the market when they came over here. It's just everyone I've ever had outside of, the only exception I will say is older farmers love that side entry mono boom that they've got, where you can, you know, get into it like you do a car, and it's got full visibility out your left side, and they can stack them hay bales however tall they want. It telescopes out. They love it. Oh my God. But they also don't work the machine hard. Anyone that's ever worked those machines hard over here, just they fall apart. So yeah, Andy, for whatever reason, those Komatsu loaders, it's like they needed to put twice the AC in them that they did. It's just that WA320 was brutal. It was so freaking hot in the summer, and you'd have that AC cranked and it wasn't doing anything. So I actually had the mechanic come out and overcharge it, and it was just barely keeping up. And that's in Michigan. So, oh, so good. Nick, if you're watching, so delicious. So delicious, my friend. That's the voice you have to use if you drink this on a regular basis. Huh. That's interesting. Yeah, you guys are in oil and gas country down there. Up here in Michigan, we just have mud. Yeah, that's just mud. That's what you get to work with up here. So it's 9:40. Guys, I'm going to tell you what. Let's give it another 5-ish minutes, and then we're going to shut this baby down. We're going to get out of here at a reasonable time tonight. And that way I can save some of my beautiful personality for next week. Because you guys, like, no joke, I got off at 10:30 last week, and then I just had to kind of like sigh and trudge upstairs because I was so exhausted. But AP, that is another good point. You guys use everybody over there. Like, it astounds me the number of brands that you guys have that I haven't even heard of. So Miller, that's a good question. I don't know for a fact if they still make some engines. But like I said, I don't know if you caught that earlier. This was like I want to say like this was in late 80s or early 90s dozer that was a John Deere, but it was 100% a rebadged Liebherr. Like, you could go through and find serial plates with Liebherr all over them throughout the machine. So I don't know if they still do make engines. That is one interesting thing that when I was working at the Case dealership that I learned, is just how crazy incestuous the industry is when it comes to making machines or engines for machines. So Iveco is a name that we don't know at all over here in the US. Over in Europe, Iveco is one of the biggest names when it comes to diesel engines. Turns out Iveco makes a really efficient diesel engine that has been able to meet Tier 4 emissions with ease in a lot of applications. They also have a patent on the way that they achieve those efficiencies. And so what's happened is a lot of Caterpillar marine engines are actually rebranded Iveco. I know John Deere has a lot of their forestry equipment, like their skidders and some of their feller bunchers, are using Iveco engines. So as a Case dealer, because Iveco, Case, Fiat is the big parent, they own Iveco. And so as a Case dealer, like, that was one of our talking points, was how, yeah, actually Caterpillar and John Deere are using our engines because they can't meet the emission standards with their own engines. So yeah, you've never heard of Iveco, but they're really good engines to the point that Cat and Deere are also using them. So all that to say, it wouldn't surprise me if Lee Bear's still making engines for John Deere. So Richie, tequila, ooh, I'll tell you, you got to be careful with tequila. So my wife actually just this past week made some jalapeno. She infused it with something else. I can't remember, but I want to say jalapeno lime maybe. She infused tequila, and ooh, baby, like that's dangerous stuff. It is seriously good. Little Skechers, what's happening, buddy? You're late to the party. Like, we're getting ready to shut this baby down, and you're just now showing up. Like, you were so fashionably late, you almost missed the party, brother. What's happening, man? We use pretty much every brand there is over apart from John Deere excavators. So is it because no one likes John Deere excavators over there, or because they're not available? AP, what specifically is it about the John Deere? Joey, electric equipment. That's an interesting question. If you're talking fully electric, I think the technology is just not there. So Case has dabbled with that, and I know I keep coming back to Case. It's what I sold, so it's what I know. Case dabbled with a fully electric backhoe, and when you really delve down into it, the only market for that backhoe really were municipalities, where it goes out for the day and it spends maybe 3 hours actually running, doing hard work. And then the rest of the time it's kind of sitting there hanging out, waiting for someone to need it to throw some stuff in the front bucket. Your real work time, I want to say, with that machine, like heavy duty work time, was only like 5-ish hours. I can't remember the exact number, but it was like pathetically low for a real company that needed to do real work for the machine. Like, you could not dig a basement or like anything substantial with that machine. Now, for a municipality, okay, sure, they can get away with it because they're not digging that hard. It is a fully electric machine, so yeah, you're going green. You're getting energy from a greener source. I don't think the technology is there to go fully electric yet. Now, if you get into the hybrid machines, there are some absolute benefits to hybrid. I've talked about the Kobelco hybrid, the 210 class machine that they have. Your swing motors are electric. So now when it comes to doing your boom and stick and bucket functions while you are spinning the machine over your truck or back over the trench, it doesn't slow you down at all because those swing motors are fully electric. So there's some real benefits to having the hybrid system. But when it comes to the fully electric, battery technology isn't where it needs to be like, it's not realistic to have a fully electric machine on a real job site. So, oh, Finkel, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize they own Polaris. It's amazing to me. Like, that was one of those peek behind the curtain things where you realize, like, Fiat owns, like, I knew Chrysler and Dodge and all that stuff, but to learn Polaris and like all of these other things that they own, it was like, holy crap. I had no idea. Hey Miller, thanks for watching, man. Thanks for the subscription. I really appreciate the support. Have a good evening. Thanks for hanging out. We'll catch you on the next one. Every Sunday night, guys. If you haven't seen below, or if you haven't heard me say it, every Sunday night we do these at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. Efix, no, I have never run a paver. I've ridden on a paver, but I have not gotten to run a paver. Likewise, I have ridden on cold mills or cold planers, but I have not physically had the chance to run one yet. I got very close one time, but didn't actually get to sit in the seat and pull the levers. So I would like to. I'm like, that's one thing about this industry. I'm always game for running a new machine and learning a new machine. I'm trying to get my farmer buddy to let me run his tile plow, which if I do, I will 100% document me totally effing that up and learning, but haven't had a chance to. That's interesting, AP, because you guys have a lot of Deere equipment over there, don't you? I know. Obviously, they're ag sides over there for sure, but I think I've seen a fair amount of Deere dozers and stuff over there. That's interesting. Yeah, Finkel, 100%. We're just not there. And it's not, you know, there is part of the man aspect that I'm like, yeah, keep it diesel. Like I legitimately miss when you fire up a cold diesel engine in the morning, having that big old black soot cloud just fly out of the, like that's, yeah, I'm in a man's industry. Yeah. Like I do miss that. But at the same time, like, I don't get super hung up on that. And so when it comes to the battery stuff, like, yeah, that would kind of suck to have a machine that hums and sounds friendly instead of a mean, like, I love hearing that turbo whine. But the bigger thing is it's just got to be practical, and it's just not practical. So, Richie, thanks for hanging out, man. I really appreciate it. So on that note, I think we're going to close this thing down. Unless one of you guys, I will give you 30 seconds or so for it to come from me to you and then come back to me. But unless someone has some really amazing question, I think we're going to start shutting this baby down. We're going to call it a night before 10 o'clock. I still have time to go watch a show with my wife and enjoy a little bit of an evening. You guys can go have a life instead of watching some boring guy drink super feminine beverages on a YouTube channel, you know. So there is that. We all walk away as successes if we shut this down before 10. So on that note, I'm not seeing anything else come through. AP, as always, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate you all the way from freaking Britain. Like, that's awesome. I can't tell you how much that means. Sketchers, Finkel, thanks for dropping in, guys. I didn't see a whole lot of you till the very end here, but I really appreciate you guys hanging out. Joey, thanks. I haven't seen you before. Absolutely, Ryan. Chug, chug, chug. That's what it's all about. Like, now we're on home stretch. Like, I can drink whatever I want now, and it's not going to hit while I'm live, so I won't make a total ass of myself. So yeah, now it's chug territory. And look at the size of this. I got a lot to go. Like, I've barely made a dent in this. So I still haven't grown a vagina yet. So, but anyway, you guys, on that note, you guys have a great evening. Thanks for hanging out. Finkel, enjoy your week too. All you guys enjoy your week, and we will catch you guys on the next one next Sunday, 7:30. My buddy Rick, before I forget, my buddy Rick is going to be on here. We're going to answer questions about having your own business, forestry work, what equipment to own to start a business. We're going to talk about all that stuff. So Ryan, AP, everybody, have fun. Good night. We'll see you guys next time.